Have you ever felt that classical music is this thing you're supposed to get, but you just kind of don't? Well, today, we're going to flip that whole idea completely on its head. This isn't about you trying to understand the music. It's about something way, way more personal than that. So let's just dive right in with this quote from the philosopher Theodore Adorno. It sounds like a total riddle, right? We don't understand music. It's music that understands us. What on earth does that mean? Well, to really unpack it, we have to start with a story. You know that feeling of being an outsider? That's how a lot of us feel about complex music. It's like showing up to a party where you don't know anyone. And that exact feeling, it's perfectly captured in a strange dream that the composer Franz Schubert once had. So in this dream, Schubert's at this party, right? But he's just miserable. He's not feeling it. And his father, seeing his mood, gets angry and just kicks him out. So Schubert starts wandering for what feels like a really long time before he finally heads home. And as he's wandering around in this kind of dream state, he spots something way off in the distance. It's a gathering of people. He walks a little closer and he realizes it's a funeral, a very solemn, very serious ceremony. His very first thought is exactly what so many of us think when we hear a really complex symphony for the first time. This isn't for me, I don't belong here, this has absolutely nothing to do with my life. He feels like a total and complete stranger. But then, something changes. He feels this bizarre, powerful pull, an impulse he just can't shake. It's telling him, get closer, walk into the crowd. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that? You hear a piece of music, and yeah, it feels like a foreign language, like some distant ceremony. But there's this tiny part of you that's still drawn in, that's curious about what's actually happening at the very heart of it all. That impulse that Schubert felt, that's the whole key. See, it's not about having some special knowledge, it's just about having the courage to take that first step, to actually walk toward the music instead of just observing it from a distance. And this brings us to this really crucial idea, something you could call courageous listening. It's really just a decision. It's you deciding to stop being an outsider and to just walk in. You don't need a ticket, you don't need to have read a book about it, you just have to decide to move forward. And what's so fascinating is why we hesitate. It's almost always these doubts we have in our own heads, right? We tell ourselves, oh, this music can't possibly be about my life, or there must be some barrier here, or even, I'm a stranger, it won't accept me. We're the ones building the walls. But here's the secret. The only tool you actually need to break through those self-made walls is something you already have. It's your breath. It's the rhythm of your own body. Because music, at its core, isn't an intellectual puzzle, it's physical. It's meant to resonate with the life that is already humming away inside of you. The big challenge, though, is that our modern habits have pretty much trained us not to listen this way. We've built these little traps for ourselves that actually keep the music at arm's length. Okay, so the biggest trap, treating classical music like it's just background noise. And this slide shows you exactly why that just doesn't work. See, most of the music we listen to today has a really consistent volume, a steady beat. It's literally designed not to distract you. Classical music is the complete opposite. It's built on massive extremes, from a whisper to a roar, from a slow crawl to a flat-out sprint. It wants your attention. So what happens when you turn the volume down to make it background music? You literally chop off its quietest moments and its loudest moments. You're not really listening to the music anymore. You're listening to this broken, flattened out, incomplete version of it. And here's another huge trap, the trap of the familiar tune. Think about a famous piece like Beethoven's Für Elise. We all know it, right? We hear that iconic opening part and our brain just goes, oh, I know this one. Then, when the music veers off into something complex or unfamiliar in the middle, what do? We tune out. We just kind of wait for the famous bit to come back around. But here's the kicker. The most dramatic, the most innovative, the most emotionally powerful parts of the piece, they're almost always buried in those middle sections that we've trained ourselves to completely ignore. The real story is in the journey itself, not just in the familiar signposts along the way. So if we want to get past these traps, what should we actually be listening for? Well, let's look at two concepts that are kind of hiding in plain sight: how music plays with time and how it uses silence. A musician once pointed out that those 5 frantic minutes you have before a train is about to leave feel incredibly short, right? Just a flash. But in that exact same amount of time, you can fit an entire expansive movement of a Mozart symphony. Music has this incredible power to stretch and compress how we perceive time itself. Now, for our next idea, let's talk about silence. What are you looking at here? Just a number. 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Believe it or not, this is the title of one of the most famous and maybe infamous pieces of music of the 20th century. So in this piece by the composer John Page, a pianist walks out on stage, sits down at the piano, and for 4 minutes and 33 seconds plays absolutely nothing. It sounds like a joke, I know, but the purpose behind it is actually incredibly profound. And here it is. Here's the point. When the external music stops, you are forced to listen to the music that's already happening inside of you. Your own breath, the sound of the person next to you shifting in their seat, your own thoughts. Cage of Silence reveals that we are the source of rhythm and sound. Which brings us all the way back to Schubert and his dream. Remember? He felt like a total outsider at a funeral, but he found the courage to walk forward into the crowd. So what did he find when he finally got to the center of it all? He discovered the funeral wasn't for some stranger. The funeral was for him. It was a ceremony for his own deepest feelings. He wasn't an outsider at all. He was the protagonist. And this is exactly Adorno's point. When we finally get the courage to really listen, we find that the music isn't about some composer who lived hundreds of years ago. It's about us. It understands us. The music is always playing. It's not behind some wall. The only thing standing in the way is that little bit of hesitation to just step forward. So the real question is, will you walk in?